season and what we're seeing right now. But before I do that, congrats to Canada for that hockey game. Man, we should have won that thing. Anyways, let's go over kind of seasonal tax things that, the automotive gets benefit from. So usually that February, March is a really good tax or season and sales for automotive dealers because customers file their taxes, they get a check, they get returns, and all of a sudden they start showing up, right, to buy some cars, use that money as down payments and so forth. But I would tell you over the last few years, it's been really soft, and it's been a handful of years where tax season's gotten pretty darn soft. There's certain theories about it, but and again, this tax season, even though we have a new administration, whatever the tax returns are going to be based off of previous administrations, because obviously the economy has a lot to do with that, and I'm going to go over those headlines here in a minute. So actually, let's do that. Let's go over consumer where they're standing right now, what their feelings are. So let me show that. I'm going to show my screen. If you're listening to this on podcast, please join us on YouTube, Facebook, on my Facebook page, or even LinkedIn and watch the videos, because I'm going to share my screen and you're going to want to see the information I'm going to go over. So let me go ahead and start you with this screen right here. And there we go. Now, before I do that, let me pop in this little picture I took of this headline. Now, this is CNN Business. It says U.S. consumer sentiment plunges over tariff and inflation fears. Basically, it's down about 10% from January, down 2 in a row. Because again, we don't know where this establishment, this new administration is going. If there's going to be any tariffs, and eggs are more expensive now, and so forth. Now, this administration's only been in for a month or so, but those things are trickling into the economy right now. And matter of fact, you can see their fear and greed index. Fear is driving the U.S. market, and just look at the Dow and S&P and NASDAQ. Okay. So I was just talking to one of our reps, Steve Everhart, and he was saying, man, it's tax season over. And, this is stuff we track. And I mentioned this a lot in my other videos, but, this is going to Google Trends. Okay. And this is looking at the United States as a whole, and it's looking at the last 12 months. Let me zoom in for you. Again, you can go down here and pick out your state and see where everything's happening and where it's trending out. Some markets like West Virginia is at a peak, but let me just kind of show you what this is. Now, this is people going to Google looking for used car. Now, that would also include people looking for used car, used Ford, used interest rates, things like that. So basically, I've tracked this year over year for 10 years. So let me show you on a scale of 100. It don't show you total searches, but in a 12-month period, on a scale of 100, where was the peak at? Now, this happened to fall exactly a year ago was the peak. The week of February 18th through the 24th was the peak of people looking for used cars in the market. Now, if you compare that to where we're at right now, that's an 86. So that tells me shopper counts for used cars is down 14%. Now, hopefully, maybe new cars start getting attention with rebates and incentives, because there's a lot of people with negative equity. And then, two, if they're getting any kind of money right now on a tax return, are they hesitant to spend it based on, again, tariffs, high prices at the grocery store, things like that? So a lot of, and here, let me share that with you. Let's go into the filings this year. Now, this is going to go look at ending February 7th. So it's been, hopefully next week they'll update and there's some more information here, but filings are down year over year about 7%. Okay. By this time last year, there was 25.5 million filings. Right now it's 23.5 million. So pretty much that's on received, processing, e-files, electric filing, online, all that's down. The biggest thing that I saw was down was the web usage. IRS.gov, the usage there is down 41%. That's really weird. Now, the other thing you can see, the average return at that point, year to date, at this point in time last year was $1,700. It's at $2,000 right now. So, customers got a few extra $100 on them, but is that getting eaten up by eggs and everything else, right? So you got to keep an eye on this. But I'm sure next week we'll get some more information. So the biggest thing I wanted to show you, and the reason why I ask, is the tax season over. I've showed this multiple times before, and this is going back, all the way to Shopper Index looking back 5 years ago, running into 2020. And let me just show you the past. Forget about 2020. Let's look at 21, 22, 23, 24. Let's look at that shopper activity. So going into 2021, it was a late shopper index, I believe. Again, we're the aftermath of 2021. It was one of the best years for automotive dealers with gross profit and shortages and all that other stuff. And so by the week of 313, so that would mean again, going back to 3.7, which is only 2 weeks away from now. Okay, it hits the peak, but it built up from there. There was no drop off. It just went straight up from the beginning of February right up through March. And then our dealers' 2 week sold percentage followed. Okay, our dealers were selling 86% of their inventory in 2 weeks. That means they're selling 174% of their inventory a month. Okay, so blew up. Well, let's go look at what happened rolling into 2022. Again, no drop off. There's a little bit of an uptick right here. And then the shopper index peaked by 3.5. Again, the week of 3.5. That means in a week, that shopper activity started dropping off, meaning in 3.5, what's that? Is that, that's basically 2 weeks from now, right? So within the next two, but notice again, it built up all the way to then. Drops off through December. And then what was funny in 2022, we had a little bit of a spike in January, the beginning, end of December going into January. Dealers' sales spiked right there on January 14th. So basically by January 1st, dealers' sales has spiked. My thought on this, and it was backed up, I've mentioned this before, is I think that's companies telling people by the beginning of the year they need to get back into the office. Okay, it's been 3 years now, COVID's over, we need to fill up these office spaces. And a lot of people went out and bought that car to get back into the office because they might have got rid of it working remotely, because then the regular tax season hit. Okay, now this is 2023, just 2 years ago. By the 18th, which was just 3 days ago, the shopper index peaked, and then it dropped all the way down. We got a little bit of an uptick in March 18th. Again, maybe that's the late filers finally getting their checks, our late filers finding out. But the dealers' volume stopped by 311. Again, that's about 2 weeks. Now look at 311. We're looking at the dealer's last 2 weeks of sales. Okay, so that pulls it back. 2 weeks from the 11th would have been around the end of February 28th, February 25th, or something like that. And then all that sales dropped off. So let's look at last year. When did the shopper index peak? February 20th. Okay, that was yesterday. The shopper indexed peak, and then again followed our dealer sales. By the 5th, they peaked, and then they dropped off. And it built up. Again, there was a slow build up from December 19th all the way up. And then we had this up and down. February 13th, it was low, and then bam, right about within that week, it shot up. So let's see what's happening right now. Again, November and December, we had this little bitty peak right here on February 15th. Then our dealers' volume went up to 45%. So basically, we're only selling 90% of our inventory. But our dealer sales are starting to drop off. Okay, they're starting to drop off. That was as of 2/18. Let's look at it today. It's sitting at 43% as of today. So it's dropped another 2% since the 18th. Our dealers' volume has dropped off because, again, the shopper activity is 14% lower than last year. Okay, and last year peaked so unless this shoots up, which we might, again, last year you had this middle 53 shopper percentage, and then bam, it jumped up about 10%, 8% overnight. That next week, we might get that little spike. But right now, I just don't see it, especially with the headlines that we're doing right there. So I'm going to stop sharing. So remember, in the headline, customer sentiment, they don't feel very confident right now. They don't know where tariffs and everything are going to take them, because Mexico and Canada, we did a 30-day out and said, hey, let's pause this for 30 days and circle back and let's see what they do. So we don't know where that's in place. The steel tariff will go and impact already, I believe, at the beginning of March here. So that's happening. So all that's just going to impact your sales at the dealership. And my thinking right now is I think we did hit the kind of that peak. We might get a little bit of an uptick over the next 2 weeks, maybe. Again, filings are down 7%. We'll see where it falls this next 2 weeks. But there's just a lot of insecurity going on right now. And I think people, with the fact that groceries and stuff are higher, they're probably going, okay, let's just wait it out another year to replace this car, or let's wait till the summertime and maybe take advantage of some new car incentives and wait for those. And that's where I think the market booms at some point in time this year. And I would imagine by mid-year, either by the administration and or dealers alone, there's going to be some kind of new car perk, big, huge incentives and low rates, maybe a similar cash for clunker scenario. But I think there's going to be a big push, and especially for ICE vehicles, to new cars to get that attention, which would lead to more trade-ins, right, and get more used cars in the market. So it's just going to be tricky. And these are the type of information we stay on top of. Not only that, but every day being able to sell you exactly any of your holes. I don't care if you're selling 150% of your inventory. I will find a hole and something to keep you in that. I'll find a hole of an area you need to keep improving, keep proactive to keep that sale rate up. On top of that, we fundamentally change the way we manage leads, because we're going to do it based on inventory situations. And so we put those two worlds together in our Lotwalk tool. If you'd like to see that or get a demo, let me know. And I could go over some more of this economy stuff and ways that we're helping dealers stay ahead of this. Do a lotwalk.com. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time.